Well, hello. I'm Bruce Hawley, president of the Circus Historical Society, and welcome to the CHS's Circus History Live. Circus History Live is produced monthly by the CHS. Recordings of our previous episodes are available on the CHS YouTube channel. Tonight, our featured guest is none other than the founder and executive director of Omnium Circus, Lisa B. Lewis. And now here's your host, Chris Berry. Chris?
Thanks, Bruce, and thanks, Lisa, for joining us, and thank all of you for taking a few minutes out of your day to learn a little bit more about the CHS and especially about Lisa Lewis and her history in circus. If you know anything about Lisa, and a lot of you do, we're going to probably tell you a few things you don't know. 1986 graduate of Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Clown College. She got her master's degree in clown and circus history from NYU. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And of course, we're also going to really kind of run through some of her history, especially as it relates to Omnium. You know, Lisa, I like to say that the circus exists in a lot of places. They just may not call it circus. You don't necessarily need to have elephants. You don't necessarily have to have lions and tigers, but circus acts such as what you have are amazing. And what you've created is a really, truly accessible circus, the only one like it in the world. And so I'd really like to kind of jump into it and tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got interested in circus.
So Jonathan Lee Iverson told me a quote the other day, and he said, if circus is truly in your blood, it will find you. And it did. I was always liked the circus, and I was in college. One of my roommates was trying to teach me to juggle, and I failed miserably. And there was an audition notice on the board for clown college. So she goes, why don't you go down there? See if maybe they'll at least teach you to juggle. So I walked into, I guess it was the Boston Garden, and I never looked back. I just felt at home. This is where I want to be.
So you went to clown college, 1986. You graduated. Tell us a little bit about what happened at that point.
So after clown college, I started doing, I did some advanced work. I stage managed for Avner the Eccentric. I came about a year later, I entered my master's degree. I was just doing everything. So I guess
And
the first,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, so I know that Big Apple was something that you really, I mean, that's where a lot of us first got to know you because of your role as an executive there, working with Paul Binder and the folks. Tell us a little bit about what your role was at Big Apple.
So I was actually really, really fortunate. I did a lot of different things. I first joined Big Apple Circus in the clown care unit, and I worked in the hospitals doing that for about 15 years. And simultaneously, I was volunteering with Circus of the Senses, which is a program that Paul and Michael created in 1987. There's me at a gala. So I started volunteering with that program, and I fell in love with it. And then I later started coordinating it and kept going.
So you're clearly a performer, as we can tell from some of these photographs. But you're much more than that. You have always had a real affinity for people in general, and especially people who may not necessarily have voices all the time. Tell us a little bit about how your whole idea was hatched for really Circus Omnium and when it happened, which I guess was right in the heart of the pandemic too.
Yeah. So, as I said, I was working with Circus of the Senses. And when I first started coordinating it, we realized very quickly that in order to really serve the people, we were trying to put people with all different things into the same thing. It was a one show per market that we got in all these school kids and were able to really serve them. And it was wonderful, but it wasn't enough. Those families wanted to come, the kids wanted to bring their parents, but they couldn't come to another show because there was never the access for it. And we
Right.
realized that we needed to split off and create a separate show just for kids with sensory issues and autism, separate from people who needed enhanced sensory contrast.
You know,
So
we've seen we've seen pictures, going back over 100 years of the fact that Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey would bring, blind children to circus performances and things like that. But you've really taken it to another level. You really, you think of the five senses that we have. How do you bring the circus to people who can't see or maybe cannot hear or have other challenges that others don't have?
Um, so it's a little different for each person. And thank you for mentioning that. Peggy Williams was in charge of the access and all of those things at Ringling, and I learned a lot from her. So credit to Peggy. So if someone doesn't receive information visually, they receive it in other ways. So they'll receive it auditorily. We do what's called an audio description. And back in Circus of the Senses, Paul and Michael used to describe the whole show. And it was great. And they had this whole two-person system. And they described everything to create audio pictures of the circus. Instead of having a visual picture, you had an audio picture. And with two people talking back and forth, it really enriched the experience. So to this day, that model is my preferred. Obviously, sometimes it's budget dependent. You can only have one person, but we try still really hard to keep that format because I think it really enhances the experience. So for people who don't perceive sound through their ears, if they're deaf, if they're hard of hearing, deaf is a whole culture. And there's a very innate and beautiful language called American Sign Language that enriches that experience for them. So the show is delivered, our show, both in English and in sign language, because I got really tired of looking off to the side and missing the action. If you have to watch the interpreter over there, you miss the whole show. So we wanted to really integrate that and make sure that everybody was looking at the action at the same time. And sensory supports aren't that difficult. You just make sure there's not so much contrast.
But you made this decision during one of the most difficult times in the history of the United States, one of the most difficult times in the history of entertainment. It was a time really when people were staying home because of the pandemic. How did you come up with that idea, and especially at that time?
So it's interesting. This had been brewing in my head, obviously, for many, many years. And at that time, I was still working with Big Apple Circus. I was director of community programs, and I was still working with Big Apple Circus, and it had gone through not-profit to for-profit. And when the pandemic happened and it all shut down completely and has since been sold again, I had the time and I thought, I wonder if we could do this. Like, how crazy would it be? Could we make a show that everybody could appreciate at all times? And what would happen if you looked in the ring and it wasn't a monochromatic picture? What would happen if it was a picture that really represented the audience and really matched the demographics of the audience? So I called a whole bunch of my friends and I'm like, am I crazy? Can we do this? And no one talked me out of it.
So people are not getting out of their houses. I mean, they can barely. You live in New York City. It was a very scary time at that point during the pandemic. How did you, basically do all those things that need to get done, from the funding to the hiring of the talent and things like that?
Well, I surround myself with people smarter than I am. And, I don't know how we did it. Now I look back at it, but we did. You just look one step ahead of you and you figure out what needs to happen, and we work together to make it happen.
You and I have also talked about the fact that unlike some circuses that are constantly on the road, Omnium is a program that exists maybe in, sometime you're in Washington, D.C., and then a few weeks later you're in Phoenix, Arizona. How do you come up with the route, and how do you come up with the acts, basically? And because they are solid acts, excuse me. Everybody from, the King Charles Troupe to Yan Dam have been a part of what you've done. How do you find those people, and how do you put together the route?
Both great questions. First of all, we have the most amazing artistic director in Noé Espana. And the show is great because of his tutelage and because of his guidance. So credit to Noé. There's, yep, two of them, two Españas. So he does a lot of that. And this ended up, it was more by default than by design, but this is the paradigm in which we found ourselves able to proceed, to move forward, and to do well. So they're performing arts centers around the country. We have an incredible agency called Harmony Artists, and we just go where people are welcoming and want to have us. I mean, it's like booking anything, you know, it's routing, it's tours, it's
when
phone call.
When you think about the marketing aspect of it too, obviously, just really over the past several years. Kevin, your microphone, please. But if you take a look at just the marketing and how social media has really taken over, I mean, I imagine that as a founder and as really the person who runs this circus, social media is probably a real way to target your audience, I would think, right?
It is. And we are so fortunate because, as you know, over 40% of our whole company, which outside of the performers is like 7 people. We're small and mighty. But we do have on our board of directors is our marketing consultant, Barbara Flugout, who works day to day. And we have a social media director, a woman named Marie Desjardins Lewis, who we got after she had been wrongfully terminated because she has a disability. And she is absolutely the greatest gift in sliced bread. This woman is just, she really works hard on our social media.
And it allows you to really target the people who you want to reach.
It does.
The when I've seen the show, it's really a unique experience. Kind of walk us through why this is different than any other circus that maybe people have seen before.
So first and foremost, it's just a flat out great show. There are lots of great shows, and this is a great show. That's the most important. Then once you look into it, the idea is that you become so entranced at looking at brilliant performers that you don't notice that that this person is of that color, and this person is BIPOC, and this person has legs, and this person doesn't have legs, and this person uses a wheelchair, and this person's signing. You don't notice it because you're so drawn into the artistry. And that's the gift of our show, is that you can focus on the artistry. So it really is lifting up the performers of all abilities together. And from a social perspective, it allows people, whether they're disabled or not, or however you perceive yourself, to connect with somebody and experience that magic that is the circus. So everybody can connect. Then when you look in the audience, they need to connect in real life. They need to go back to their office and say, oh, look, I misjudged you. I saw this amazing circus performer who could do that, and you're sitting in a wheelchair. Maybe I've misjudged you. Maybe you can do more than I gave you credit for. And maybe we'll plant little ripples.
I took and I don't know how well this is going to translate, but I actually took a video that when I saw the show, which I'm going to try to share with everybody here. I'm not sure exactly if we're going to get a little audio here, but at least you can kind of describe what is happening here. Who are the people we are watching right now?
So that is Jen Bricker-Bauer and Dominic Bauer.
And she does not have legs.
No, she was just born that way.
Yeah. So let's just watch just a minute or so of their act. I have to tell you, when I saw that at the circus, it blew me away. Really an unusual act indeed. How did you find these people?
So Jen is a great story. I actually, when I was first thinking about starting Omnium, she had just finished, not just, but she was on the Britney Spears tour years ago that Big Apple Circus had also sent people on that went over to Dubai. So I'd heard of her. So I just like randomly picked up the phone and called her. And I asked her to be on the board of directors because I'm pulling together people who know circus, right? So I asked her to be on the board of directors. So she's like, okay, sure, whatever. But she did join the board, and then she's joined the company from the very beginning when we were in DC, when we first had rented Pedro's tent and were trying to go live, and she was in that show. And when that didn't happen, she was the one who said, come on, let's go. And we went to Gallaudet and we found a space there, and it really set us on a wonderful path. Fun fact, the video that you took was the last show she did before she went on maternity leave, and they now have an absolutely adorable son.
That's fantastic. And you know, I have to tell you, when I saw it, as I said, I was actually blown away, as will everyone else in the audience were also. But it just shows how people can overcome any adversity and really do something that you wouldn't have necessarily expected. And I think that's sort of what your mission is, right?
It really is. It's to see that everybody has a challenge, right? Whatever it is, it's the nature of life. And it's, you just have to persevere, as Noe would say, persevere. But it really is to have everybody realize that they too are possible in whatever way that needs to be.
So we're looking now at a picture of the King Charles Troupe. Now they are obviously, you know, they've been a part of American circus history for almost 60 years. But these guys continue to entertain in a way that I know they're reaching people that might have felt as though they were also excluded, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely. They're just
Kip is
great.
on your board too, right?
He is. Kip is actually the secretary of our board.
That's
We're
that's
very proud to have him.
that is great. You know, the acts, and tell me a little bit about I'm going to show you having a little bit of technical problems here, but tell me about this fellow here.
So Rick Daniels is freaking hysterical. He is a 7-time NCAA gymnastics champion, and he is also an award-winning ballroom dance competition. Does wheelchair dance wheels. He works with Dance Wheels Foundation. And he's just, we found him during that time when New York City was pretending that they were going to fund artists. So we had to pool together a group of artists, and we found him then, and he had not done that much circus, but he obviously had the skills and the drive, and he's so funny. His act is amazing. He goes into a handstand on his wheelchair while it's turning.
Amazing. And again, you know, if you haven't seen this show, it's just amazing how you find people who you wouldn't traditionally think they would be a part of a circus. Tell us a little bit about Eric. I know he's an important part of the show too.
Eric is fabulous. Eric is the head of our ringmaster squad. So his mom, Gina, is now on our board. And we found Eric during the pandemic. He was a big fan of Jonathan Lee Iverson. And then during the pandemic, they saw our online show, and Eric's mom, Gina, reached out and said, it's Eric's birthday, and he would like nothing more than a signed picture by Jonathan Lee Iverson. And we know he's in your show. We bought a ticket. We've been watching the virtual show. He watched it over and over. I swear, I don't know how many tickets they bought. I'm finally like, here's the code, because they were just like watching it over and over. It was amazing. So we obviously got him the picture. And then our first destination place, the first place we made our home, was right near them in Tysons, Virginia. And they became very involved. And Eric we need grassroots marketing, right? So what do? You got to hang posters. You got to go into that's grassroots circus marketing. And we needed somebody to really canvas and put posters. And for Eric, it was just an incredible opportunity for him because he got to meet the people in his community. And he worked through a lot of his shyness and a lot of his fear of speaking to people when he went in, because he had a poster to hang up over his circus because we're his circus.
That's great.
And so it really works out great for everybody. So he's the head of our squad, and a bunch of his friends join us, and it's open to anybody.
So you're watching Circus History Live. This is a monthly opportunity for us to get together and talk to some of the people who are making circus history today. Lisa B. Lewis is with us today, founder and executive director of Omnium, but also a long tradition of circus, both with Big Apple and as a graduate of the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Clown College. But Lisa, this past year, you made it to Broadway. Tell us a little bit about how that happened.
So we were doing a show at Queen's Theater, and Alan Miller, whom you all probably all know too, was our publicist, and he invited Mary Rose from New Victory to come see our show. And she just loved it and said yes. And so she signed us up for 2 years later.
Fantastic. Takes a while to get in there. This is one of the major theaters right off of Times Square.
It was great. I mean, at that point, we're like, what are we going to even make it? What are we going to do? And it was like, yes, here we are. We've made it. And it's just, it's such a great venue.
And you definitely have made it there also. One of the things that you have done, again, in the time that you were in New York is you took over Times Square, basically. and brought out not only your acts, but also it put the spotlight really on being a disability employer, and for others to realize how important it is to have access to those who they might not normally hire, right?
It's true. And it's really, I mean, the point I want to prove is that if I can do this, so can you. Like, we can all, it seems to me obvious that you would want to be as inclusive as possible, to take advantage of so many different brains and so many different bodies and just create the most beautiful thing you can. So,
and I mean, just look at obviously the crowds, but you are right there in the heart of Times Square, showing people circus acts. And again, anytime you're talking about the circus, I think it's a good thing. And you brought it right to the heart of New York.
That was crazy. It was a collaboration of the Times Square Alliance and the New Victory. And the guy up there, Sebastian, a lot of you guys might know him too. 18 years old, that kid drove an F-350 into Times Square, and we had it parked.
That's great. Well, so how did the show go at the New Victory?
It was great. We had a wonderful, wonderful time. A lot of people came out. Tickets sold real well. It was a great show. It's really proud of us.
There on his unicycle, and doing a circus on a stage too. I mean, that also I've got to think creates its own challenges.
It does. It does for sure. But circus is flexible, right? It's the same artistry. It's the same joy, the same love you would see in a ring. You just can only see it from one direction.
Right. And these are, I mean, like I say, these are terrific circus acts. Another member of your board, we talked about him a little bit earlier, is Jonathan Lee Iverson. I know he's been supportive from the very beginning. He's been one of our guests here on Circus History Live also. Tell us a little bit about how important it is to have someone as visible as Jonathan on the board.
It's vital. He's one of the first people I called during the pandemic. And he tells the story much better, but somehow I talked him into it. But he's so supportive, and he was the first actual ringmaster when we went live. And now he's obviously with Circus Vargas and doing quite well.
Yes,
but he's still our president.
That's fantastic. So as we look to the kind of the future here, and I want to give folks the opportunity to also ask you questions, but as we look to the future here, you're obviously making a name for yourself. When you were in New York, I know, Whoopi Goldberg from The View came and saw the show, and some of the other folks that are well known in New York City. And they talk about it on television. I mean, it's kind of the new thing in a lot of respects, I think.
I hope so. I really hope so. I feel like we've got a great product. I feel like we're lifting everybody up along with us, or at least we're trying to. And listen, you can go to 12 different Broadway shows. You should be able to go to 12 different circuses. Be a
That
lot
is
more
for
fun.
sure. That's great. And so, when you look to the future now and the next steps for Omnium, you've got this momentum. Obviously, you're everybody's looking for funding right now. How do you go out and do that? And if there are people who see this, how do they have an opportunity to participate in what you're doing?
We would absolutely are delighted to share this much fun with everybody. So yes, the easiest thing to do is you can reach out on our website. We have gift a ticket, gift a ticket to a kid so that you can contribute because we give a lot of comps away and that helps cover our bills so that we can afford to give those comps away. And then anybody who really wants to make a real difference, just reach out either to myself, to Jonathan, to Kip, sponsorships at omniumcircus.org. That goes straight to Kip. But just reach out because there are so many collaborative opportunities and we really want to play great, you know. Let's lifts all of us up and we're very much looking forward to any opportunities to partner to make more magic, all that good stuff.
I love this picture here too, which I mean, it just shows you a great circus act with a lot of people participating in it, including people who are in wheelchairs, and I think that's terrific.
And that's, yeah.
So one of the things, we talked a little bit about those with physical disabilities, Down syndrome, and things like that. But I know you also are a big supporter of autism awareness. Um, Tell me a little bit about how those with autism experience the circus.
So you can't make, I would be remiss if I said there's one answer to that question because autism is a very, very wide spectrum. So there's a lot of differentiators. The best that we can do and what we do is reduce the sensory contrast, allow people the space they need to be who they need to be, how they need to be, and when they need to be it. If you need to express yourself by jumping up and down, we create a safe environment in which for you to do that. If you need to chill out, there's a place over to in the lobby. It depends on different venues where we put it, but there's a place to go and relax. We make sure that the volume of the sound never gets above 85 decibels. We leave the house lights on. So we reduce that contrast so it allows people a visceral safety. My experience with people on the autism spectrum is that their surroundings, they're very sensitive to their surroundings. So you need to create a space that's as safe for them as possible so that they can focus enough to really enjoy the show and participate. And we've had some really great response.
And I've got to think that the parents and families of those who see the show also appreciate what you're doing.
Absolutely. And you can't have everybody, you can't please everybody all the time, but we sure do our best.
Yes, you do. So I want to talk a little bit specifically about some of the acts that are on the show, because some of these acts, obviously, we've seen on other circuses and so forth. I love this picture. You can see actually arrow in flight, which is pretty amazing. How'd you
That's
do that?
that Micah takes the best pictures in the whole world. I don't know how she got that shot. But yeah, that's the G's. They just won a Guinness Book of World Records for his over the back shot with the mirror that he does. They're
Yeah, it's an
amazing.
amazing act if you haven't had an opportunity to see it.
Oh, they're
Uh,
wonderful. They also do all our choreography.
oh, really? That's
We
amazing.
make everybody work. It's a circus.
And again, this photograph shows the diversity of the cast also, all of whom are really strong circus performers.
Yeah.
And then tell me a little bit about this. What's going on here? It looks like everybody's having a good time.
So this is part of our opening, and the person standing on his toe with his foot way up in the air, that is Malik Paris. He just joined our company. He is deaf. He is a fabulous dancer, has just such a great personality. And so he tells the whole story essentially the same as the ringmaster, but it's like a dialogue, conversation, relationship between the two. So it's kind of back and forth. It's fun.
Really interesting that someone as a dancer would also be deaf. Again, showing how you really overcome some of the things that we may have always thought to ourselves that aren't necessarily true. This, I guess, is your entire cast at the New Victory Theater, right?
Yes, that's all of us.
So tell me a little bit about who we're looking at here, maybe from left to right.
Left to right. My
First,
left or your left? I'll go from top to bottom. That's easier.
okay, top to bottom. There you go.
So the top is Owen Sanchez. Underneath him is Elaine Kramer. The King Charles troupe are around the sides. And then we have our ringmaster, Danette Shepard-Vaughn. Rick Daniels is in the front, then Dick and Tiffany, the
Yep.
New York Boots, and they also run Laughter League, which is another place to find amazing artists. Below them is Tirsit, and then next to her is Jen. Up we go to Evgeny, Otavio, Naomi. Then we're back. Oh, there's more KCT, and that's Dennis, Kevin, Apprentice, and she was just with them for a few minutes, and she's still working. We were switching out people that day. For some reason, Kip couldn't be there. He had to work or something. I don't know why. But anyway, she's awesome. And then Malik, did I miss anybody?
Well,
Dominic?
it's clearly a cast that's larger than some of the other circuses that are. And again, if you have an opportunity to see it, I highly recommend it just because of the fact that these are really fine performers. Now, again, I've talked to you about how great I think the photography is that you use, and we do have some photos that we've been using here that our friend Paul Guthiel has given us. But some of these also are, like for example, this picture here. This is obviously at the New Victory Theater there on Broadway. And what a great photo that is.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Jenny in his handstand. That's fabulous.
Take a look at some more. Yeah. And who is this?
That's Tirsit Assefa-Dersu. She's incredible.
So she juggles. I mean, I just want to, for those who are on the call and maybe haven't seen the show, she's an acrobat who also juggles, and she's quite good.
So this is her bounce juggling 5 balls, doing a back handspring, coming back up, catching them, and keeping juggling. Yeah, she's one of the Guinness records for the world's fastest female juggler.
Are most of the artists who appear with Omnium, are they trained in America, or do you also have people from overseas?
Well, Tirsit's originally from Ethiopia. Her training is there.
And they have great circus schools in Ethiopia. Sure. A couple of acts that are on the current Ringling Circus that they picked up from Ethiopia. Yeah. This again is another nice picture of the entire cast here. Everybody's obviously having a good time, and I know that the audience is also. Again, great promotional piece there, which was put together by your team.
That was great.
It kind of shows it all, doesn't it? So as you look to the future and the things that you want to do moving forward, obviously this Omnium has a real place in your heart, and has for the past several years. But what do you do next, and what are some of the challenges that you're facing?
Two questions. So to do next, we've got 16 venues booked in 24, 25. So we're actively touring. We're out there, we're touring. We are working really hard on making sure that our social media is as strong as it needs to be. We're actively reaching out to everyone we can in every community that we go to try to bring friends in and to try to have as much of a positive impact on each community that we go to as possible. The door is always open, like I said, for people who want to join, for people who have the ability to support us and to help our programs grow even more. Touring is not inexpensive, as everybody knows, and touring with this much access adds a little bit more fun to the job. But we're good at surfing tsunamis.
you've done quite a job with that. And I would like to encourage anyone who has a question for Lisa to go into the chat and put it up there. The first one comes, and we sort of talked about this a little bit, but you can get into it a little deeper. Comes from Stacia Kelly, who said, traditional circuses basically are reaching out to circus schools to find talent. Where are you finding your talent? How do you find them and nurture the pool of performers? Obviously, you have to have the same mindset as these performers too. They can't just be a good performer; they have to understand the mission, I would think.
I am so glad you asked that question. It's totally valid. So right now, there are not that many incredible artists with disabilities. There are quite a few, but a lot of them might have to get K-1 visas, and I'm not there yet. But so two ways. One, by showcasing the artists that do currently exist in a really positive light. Everywhere we go, kids who are drawn to the circus with whatever abilities they have are seeking that training. Two, we're working very hard with two different people at the moment to try to plan and figure out, three different people, how to create circus programs that can not just include people, like open the door and say, hey, come on in, but actively figure out how to work with people that have different abilities. There are people that do that. Senka does that out in Seattle, but that's on a different level. They're not, it's more of a therapeutic level. And so I really want to work with circuit schools to figure out how to create a program to bring up young people. So it's twofold, right? You have to create, first of all, you have to showcase the people that exist to create that idea in people's mind that it's even possible for them. Second, you have to make sure that there's access to training at every level, from school, where you just expose people to it, to an after-school recreation center, to actual training. And that's a different set of collaborations. And then three, you have to provide work for all those people. So if we're successful, other circuses need to want to join in and say, hey, you just produced this great artist. I'd like to use them as well. Or if we got a long-term contract somewhere where we could have 5 shows a day over a period of time, then we can introduce all of these artists during that time period and give them the pathway to succeed in our business.
Don't know if anyone else has a question for Lisa. As you look to that possibility and those possibilities, 16 dates. Can you reveal any of those yet? We've got people from all over the world on this call, but I know I'm hoping that you'll be getting back to where I live.
I'm hoping we're going to get back to where you live. That I can't reveal that yet because they haven't given me a confirmation, but I'm hoping we do. We're going to Wayne, New Jersey. We will be in Shea Performing Arts Center in October. Then we go down from there to North Carolina. We're going to be at Farquay Varina. I can never pronounce the name of the town right. Then we're going to be at the Wilson Center in Wilmington. Then we're coming back up. We will be at the Paramount Theater in Peekskill. Then we're going to be in Proctor's in Schenectady. Then that order backwards. Look at a website and you see the calendar because I just got the order backwards. Then we go to Queens Theater. So we're back in Queens. And then in the spring, we will be in the Washington, D.C. area. Stay tuned for the venue. It's happening, but there's I's to dot and T's to cross. And we're going to go to California, Kansas, Alabama, Louisiana, and there's more.
So, I know you've also performed using Pedro Reese Big Top too. Any chance that we'll be seeing some other under canvas performances, or you find that theaters are really a better venue for this particular show?
Oh no, both venues are wonderful. It's strictly a fiscal challenge.
Sure. Yeah, I can imagine.
Nothing against either venue, but yeah, we're figuring. We're figuring.
Well, Lisa B. Lewis, you have done a fantastic job. You've had an amazing career up till now, but in many ways, I think that I know I feel, and I'm sure that others on this call also feel as though you're just getting started. And the fact that you have the only accessible circus in the world is quite an accomplishment on its own. But the fact that you have the drive, the ambition, and the talent, I think that it's going to just be terrific in the years to come. You've been watching Circus History Live. This is our monthly get together with those who are making circus history today. Lisa Lewis, we wish you the very best moving forward. I want to thank everyone for joining us on the call today and consider joining the Circus Historical Society. We do this call regularly. We have a monthly call here, and we also have a quarterly publication, a journal known as the Bandwagon, where we take a look at all kinds of projects and stories about circus history. So, Bruce, I'm going to turn it back over to you now, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Lisa. It was a wonderful, wonderful program. You're doing really terrific work, and we all appreciate what you're doing, and keep going. I'd like to thank Chris for handling the interview as he does every month. And behind the scenes, Anya Norris, who does our recordings and YouTube channel and marketing on social media. And last of all, most importantly, I'd like to thank all of you for attending our program. Circus History Live is a big part of our Circus Historical Society mission to preserve circus history. We started this program during COVID, and we've kept it going. I think we're on our 25th episode or something like that. And if you've missed any, please go to our YouTube channel. We were joking before we started. Lisa is a frequent viewer of our program. I think she's been on almost every one. And but it's so nice to have you on the screen today. So it was great. And finally, as Chris said, please consider joining the Circus Historical Society. It's a nonprofit. We only charge $60 a year. You get a beautiful journal. It's like 88 pages of great work, great research, and historical articles about every aspect. In fact, this last issue, we're starting a session that Chris is writing on Madison Square Garden, the history of Madison Square Garden. So it's a wonderful program. There's many other topics that we cover. And finally, we have our annual convention is going to be in Atlanta. Those of you who are in the Atlanta area, please consider joining us. It's going to be in August 4 through 7. We're going to be at the Marriott near Emory University. And Bella Knock has agreed to be one of our featured speakers, our featured speaker. And we're so pleased to have Bella with us. So that's what I have. Lisa, any final remarks before we go?
I want to say thank you. I also want to point out one small thing which everybody's going to love. There is one other circus in Europe called Cirque Bijou that does street theater. And that's where I first saw a show that was as inclusive as ours. And I knew that it was possible. So I want to give a quick plug to them. And I just want to thank you guys so much for having me on and join the ride. I don't know where we're going, but it's going to be someplace fun.
And again, if you'd like to donate to Omnium Circus, there is a donate page on the Omnium website where you can go and make a contribution so that they can continue to bring this amazing form of entertainment to people all over the United States. So thanks again, Lisa, and we will see you down the road.
Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.